それではプレゼンテーションに移ってまいります。
Now we would like to go on to the presentation.
持続可能な開発に向けた UNCRD
The topic of the presentation is Trajectory and Future of UNCRD towards Sustainable Regional Development. First, we will have Dr. Monte Cassim, President of Akita International University. He will do the presentation online on reflection on working at UNCRD. Next, Mr. Toshihiko Ota, Mayor of Toyota City. He will talk on collaboration between UNCRD and municipality. And also, we have Professor Kenzo Hiroki from National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies and coordinator of high-level experts and leaders panel on water and disasters. He will talk online on activities and achievements of help. Lastly, Mr. C.R.C. Mohanty, UNCRD's Environment Program Coordinator, will talk on Regional ESG Forum in Asia and the Regional 3R and Circular Economy Forum in Asia and the Pacific in the context of SDGs, history and achievement. Now, the Professor Cassim and the Mr. Cassim's documents will be in the English version. So please refer to the document in the handbook or document from the chat box. Now, Mr. Kazushige Endo, Director of UNCRD, will become facilitator.
From this part, I would like to be the facilitator from UNCRD. My name is Endo. And I would like to again take this opportunity to thank all these participants, although today is a public holiday here in Japan and we have over 200 people joining us online, apart from those here on site. As the MC introduced earlier, we have three distinguished presenters, as well as my colleague, Mr. Mohanty, to talk about the UNCRD's activities and other outputs. And I would like to make some short comments after each presentation on how this presentation has been linking to the 50 years milestone of UNCRD. And those joining us from the venue, you will find a booklet in the materials that we have handed out, and you can kindly refer to that to get to know more about the activities. And for those joining us remote, please refer to that from our website. And this is only available in Japanese now. And now I would like to welcome Mr. Monte Cassim, who has been working at UNCRD during the 1990s, during the golden age of the organization. Cassim-san, the floor is yours.
Can you give me permission to share my screen, please? Director Endo, Shocho, colleagues at UNCRD, thank you for inviting me today on this celebratory occasion. Honored guests, I'm privileged to share some thoughts on my time at UNCRD in the context of sustainable regional development, drawing from these years that Director Endo just mentioned, the 1980s, the latter part, and the 1990s, early part. This slide that I'm going to show you next gives you an overview of what I will say. Wherever possible, I will try to illustrate it with examples from what I do now, which can be traced back to working at UNCRD early in my career. Kindly take note of the lower picture on the right, showing UNCRD's disaster mitigation program in Sri Lanka. I will come back to this later. At the time it was established in 1971, UNCRD was a place like no other. It was the first UN institution of its kind to be located in Japan. With its own post-war development trajectory still tangible, the relevance of Japan's experience shaped the unique programs that UNCRD delivered to its developing member states. It had the support of Japanese local governments and communities. Building on Prefectural Governor Kuwabara's vision, Aichi Prefecture, Nagoya City, and the co-sponsor of this event, the Tube Development Corporation, which has also got industry behind it, has firmly stood by UNCRD from its very early years. This has enabled UNCRD to build further on the commitments of the government of Japan to the United Nations. The common goal was to work towards building trust between Japan and its DMC partners by uplifting lives and livelihoods in the developing member states through the modality of regional development. This can be seen summarized on this slide. Well, at 50, what is the significance of UNCRD? I believe that one of UNCRD's greatest strengths is that its programs over the years have shown in very practical terms how learning from one another benefits us all. Built on the foundations of sound investigative field research, UNCRD has nurtured several generations of development cooperation professionals. In the developing member states or DMCs, these were through its training programs. But it has also nurtured professionals in both economically developing and in the developed nations by attracting them to work at UNCRD. I was one such beneficiary, and the DNA of the values that I imbibed at UNCRD have remained and evolved as I grew as a professional. The global body of professionals nurtured at UNCRD have explored the role of regions in national development from a variety of perspectives. They have created exemplars of partnerships for development, but I feel that they are somewhat underutilized as a resource as well. Let us explore this a little further. If you remember the earlier slide I said I would come back to, you might recall a bulky mortar tank in it. This water tank was one such of many carried out by Tools for Self-Reliance Japan, a non-profit born at UNCRD in 1993, which continues to this day. It was a rainwater harvesting project carried out together with the Lanka Rainwater Harvesting Forum. Such partnerships with resilient homegrown NPO initiatives with potential global outreach, especially to disadvantaged communities beyond Japan, is something that UNCRD can build on into the future. This is a picture of the water tank in Sri Lanka. At the grassroots, Many such initiatives happened as this nonprofit left UNCRD. Just 2 years after leaving, it established a partnership with UNESCO and NIC to organize the Youth Recycle Movement World Forum, which relates quite closely to the 3R programs that UNCRD has developed even further. When Director Endo asked me to reflect on working at UNCRD, I wondered whether I should just talk anecdotally. But I felt it was much more important because UNCRD has given us much, much more than wonderful stories that we can share with each other. So I forced myself to reflect on what I saw as having driven UNCRD's continuing evolution and shaped the legacy the center has built on over the past half century. I have chosen 3 keywords for this: regions, partnerships, and professionals, which will go on tomorrow, as many speakers before me have said, to reach the UN SDGs, to work around with Industry 4.0, and to create examples of Society 5.0. The details can be seen in this slide, but in the interest of time, I will go on further. So building on the achievements, I think UNCRD will go on to contribute to sustainability and inclusion in the context I mentioned as Industry 4.0 and Industry and Society 5.0. The details can be seen in the slides that you have downloaded. Please have a look at them when you have time. But certainly UNCRD will have to look at regions which go beyond spatial units that are geographically defined, partnerships which may go beyond persons and institutions to include man and the machine, and professionals willing to integrate beyond professions and disciplines to find new modes of building expertise. So let us see how UNCRD can go on to the next steps. UNCRD is already engaging and is likely to subscribe further in the coming years to the UN SDGs, which have sustainability and inclusion as core values. It will contribute to Society 5.0, where society is driven by AI, IoT, next generation communications, and transformative science and technology will prevail. Let us see how we can contribute to sustainability and inclusion in the context of this. Let me show you now an example developed by the Sri Lanka-Japan Collaborative Platform and Ippan Shadang Hojing, or General Purpose Association, I'm closely associated with. It is an example of inclusive innovation driven by science and technology. This example of green and smart mobility is intended to transform the 3-wheel taxis of Sri Lanka into a safer, less pollutant alternative with embedded intelligence. Cargo and passenger prototypes are developed in Japan, and the latter was tested in a range of paved and rough road conditions in Sri Lanka. The smiles say it all, and this was the public response in Sri Lanka to this new vehicle. Confidentiality considerations do not permit me to show you more details of the final vehicle that was to be manufactured in Sri Lanka in 2019. But this is more or less the image of what it was going to be before COVID-19 put everything on hold. The final design of the vehicle and what the smart platform can do is shown in this slide. This is an example of how the smart platform with automated electronic payment systems can serve the tourism, medical, and agriculture sectors. It will probably lead to the development of many more value-added services in the years to come. And now, to answer the question that I was given by Director Endo. The roots of this smart vehicle project can be traced back to the Business Information and Support Systems project I initiated at UNCRD's Industrial Development Unit between 1989 and 1974. But reflecting on the work I did at the center, I believe what the center gave me was confidence, courage, and resilience. It gave me confidence as a professional, courage to initiate transformative change, and resilience to see this commitment through to the end. Transdisciplinarity is embedded in the work we did at UNCRD, and it is indeed a creative tool for solving complex grand challenges with acute local impacts. This has led me to work in teams with a diverse range of expertise, which has taken me well beyond my professional comfort zone. UNCRD taught me to integrate my personal ideas with the institution's mandates and goals, which serve a much higher purpose. I learned to see commitment through to fruition and the importance of having a long-term perspective, even if the issue is of great immediacy. Small cycles of success gives one the courage and resilience to carry on despite encountering setbacks. The challenge for UNCRD in the coming years is to see how it can remain relevant and thereby inspire its stakeholders. It will have to see regions, settlements, and communities in a hyper-connected world as very different from the geographically delineated space-time framework it has worked within in these past 50 years. It will have to mobilize the exponential transformations in science and technology. The center's experience in building trusted transnational partnerships will stand it in good stead. It will be expected to make new value propositions that go beyond the economic to embrace the environmental, social, and people development aspects that come so closely with the transformations that UNCRD is likely to make. This will be where it goes towards the next 50 years, I'm confident, but armed with the timeless values of inclusion, sustainability, caring, and sharing at the core of decision-making. In this mid to late century timeframe, it is important to explore transgenerational collaboration for transforming human society. I think you are all familiar with the face of this young lady on the slide. Greta Thunberg represents Generation Z and the anger felt by many young people as to how ineffectual previous generations have been in dealing with existential threats such as global climate change. The challenge here is to transform anger to hope. This is the world that UNCRD usually works in. The challenge here is to transform destitution to hope. I will not go into the details of this transgenerational exercise. But more than a decade and a half after I left UNCRD, I tried to put down what I saw as a timeless transnational collaborative framework for engaging in human development. Drawing from my 9 years at the center at Ritsumeikan University's Discovery Research Laboratory and Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University's Health, Environment and Life Science Institute. This concept RISE draws from resilience, innovation, sustainability, and enterprise. And I use it to this day at Akita International University to develop new programs, one of which, the Applied International Liberal Arts Institute's programs, will start in April 2022. This and its core driver, the Creative Design and Data Science Center, I'm sure can partner with UNCRD quite productively. In conclusion, let me draw from the wisdom of Dalai Lama. Give the ones you love wings to fly, roots to come back, and reasons to stay. UNCRD did give us the wings. It imbued us with timeless values, which are the roots we keep coming back to. The joy we sometimes bring to the lives of others with the successes we achieve professionally, no matter how small they are our reasons to stay. Director Endo, colleagues at UNCRD, and friends, congratulations on this very happy occasion. I wish the center all success as it charts its next half century. I'm indeed privileged to have been part of this journey and to be invited today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Monte Cassim. In the 1990s, during the golden age of UNCRD, you made a lot of achievements, and thank you for sharing those with us. And at the time, UNCRD was a big team, having more than 100 people, and we also had the Kenya office, and we also had an office in Colombia. Also in Japan, we had offices in Oyokaichi and Kobe. We were really proactive in various initiatives. And at the time, we also had a lot of expert meetings, workshops, and international conferences. Thank you again, Dr. Monte Cassim.
Now, from 2010, UNCRD held 4 international conferences with City of Toyota. Reflecting these activities, Mr. Ota, Mayor of Toyota City, will do the presentation. Hello, everyone. I'm Ota, Mayor of Toyota City. Thank you for your kind introduction. Together with UNCRD, Toyota City had conducted international conference. So I would like to touch up on those activities. Now, let me talk about Toyota City. Toyota City is known as the city of car, and the area is 910 kilometers, so 1.3 times of Biwa Lake. So 20% accounted for Toyota City in Aichi Prefecture, but 70% of Toyota covered by the forest and woods. So we have the cutting-edge technology aspect, and also we have the green aspect, and including aging problems. So 70% of Japan covered by the forest. So I often say that Toyota City is a small version of Japan. From that perspective, when Toyota do so many activities, maybe the good points and bad points of Toyota City's activity can be a good reference for other cities, including overseas cities.
In 2009,
Toyota was selected as an environmental model city. So next generation society system verification region, it was selected. Toyota City was selected. And Toyota City was selected as the SDGs future city, as you can see in this timeline. So the Japanese government selects city as various type of city. Toyota City's policy is to be selected as various types of city by the government, and that will change the mindset of Toyota City staff members. And by being appointed by such cities in various categories, Toyota City citizens can change the mindset too, and we can do various activities. So the Toyota City's recent SDGs activity is, the focus is energy, mobility, wellness. These three are the priority area for Toyota City for SDGs activity. But when promoting these activities, the local government cannot do this alone. We need the collaborations with the government and the private sectors. In order to do that, so we are the part of the Connected Social Demonstration Council. We established that in order to solve the regional issues. And we also have the SDGs partnership. We have two platforms. So the companies, groups who are interested in SDGs will solve the issues together with Toyota Cities and promote the activity toward SDGs. So Connected Social Verification Project, more than 70 companies and organizations and universities are participating in that. SDGs partners, we have 390 partners. So we have various possibilities regarding these platform activities. From this page, I would like to talk about the actual activities and cooperations with UNCRD. So we started to have collaboration partnership with UNCRD from November 2011. This was the trigger. We cooperated in doing Sustainable Urban Development Plan and Management Training course. This was conducted by UNCRD, and Toyota City had become one of the venue. UNCRD selected Toyota City as venue, and we accepted that offer. That was the trigger. And in July of 2013, we went to Geneva United Nations Innovation Fair. We were invited by United Nations. We did presentation regarding the activities, and we also talked with the General Secretary of United Nations then. In July of 2014, we participated in the side event of HLPF. Venue was New York, and here we did the presentations on Toyota City's activities. UNCRD, of course, but we also built partnership with the headquarters of United Nations. In 2015, January, it was impressive international conference. United Nations held this conference, and Toyota City also had become the host. So it was the co-host. And the conference name is High Level Symposium on Sustainable Cities, Connecting People, Environment, and Technology. 23 countries, 7 international organizations participated in this meeting, totaling 250 members and 250 people. So there were many participants from developing countries. What we talked is the poverties or fatigue, hunger or water or the washrooms issues. It was urgent issues, and for Toyota City, this was the first full-fledged international conference. Japan's stance and developing countries' stance were significantly different. That was my impression. In January, we had this high-level symposium, and in September of the same year, it was 2030 agenda. This was reflected in the 2030 agenda for SDG. In March, Toyota statement on sustainable cities and urbanization was announced by United Nations, and 2030 agenda incorporated this. So that means Toyota City made a contribution to this SDGs, and it is a great honor for us. Next international conference is February 2018. The International Symposium on the Implementation of SDGs, Building Resilient and Sustainable Societies Through Cooperations. And UNCRD involved in this symposium deeply. In February, we had this symposium. In June, we were selected as SDGs Future City. So 2018, we had a great event. And this is March of 2021. We held Think SDGs 2021 International Conference in Toyota. Director Mr. Endo participated in this conference. It was hit by the COVID-19 like today, so the meeting was done online. I really wanted to do the face-to-face conference, but as a result, we had 3,625 people participated. So people from every prefecture in Japan and also from 20 countries. So if we held face-to-face meeting, only 1,000 people at the maximum could participate. But having the online conference, so many people can participate to share the information. So that was good. And sign language users, we had 120 people participated. So Japanese, English, and we had sign language. 3 choices for the languages. And we had 120 people used sign language. So I talked with the people with disability after this conference. And having this kind of style of conference. So some people have the gap in the communication inside and outside the country. But if we hold this kind of conference, we can vary such gap to a certain level. That's my impression. And to the SDGs partner. Monitoring Tool Research Study and Tube Area SDGs Wide Area Platform. This initiative was led by UNCRD, and Toyota City joined these activities. So SDGs activities are, we have some kind of problems to achieve SDGs. Of course, local governments cannot do everything alone. We need the various types of participants to promote the activity to achieve SDGs. That will be the key point. Of course, Toyota City is one of the local governments. What we can do is limited. So we should have some connection with other local governments and other entities, and that will be the key point. And UNCRD's current activities is very encouraging us, and we have a great expectation for such UNCRD activities. And lastly, as you all know,
SDGs の取り組みの一番の考え方は
The first
Transforming Our World
important way of thinking for SDG is transforming our
ま
world.
さにそのカーボンニュートラルの話
Carbon
冒頭もありましたけ
neutrality,
れどもカーボンニュートラル
as it is already explained at the beginning of this conference, in order to achieve carbon neutrality, the bar is very high.
政策の転換が図られるだとか
Energy policy has to be
よほどの
transformed
技術革新が生まれるだとか
significantly
そういったものがない
and
限り
have
と
the
てもじゃないですけれどもカーボンニュートラルっていうのはなかなかこう
innovation in
描けないなという
technology.
ふうに思います
Those are
だ
needed
からこそ
to transform our world.
いろんな
Therefore,
主体がこれまでの
different
取り組み
types
の
of
限界を超え
entities
て
should exceed the limit of existing activities and create new values. That is
その
needed.
つなぐという行為を
And
どこが担えるのかという
the problem is who will take a lead in
その
connecting
つなぐという
those
行為
entities.
を担える要はつなぎ手
The person who can connect the entities.
私はとても
Maybe UNCRD is one of the candidates. That's my expectation, including overseas. We need connection. So, using this opportunity, celebrating 50th anniversary, we hope that UNCRD will take a lead in connecting the entities and enrich the world furthermore. To that end, we, local government, will play a role that is important. So, congratulations for the 50th anniversary. Thank you very much. This will conclude my presentation. Thank you very much, Mr. Ota. In order to celebrate 50th anniversary, handbook for SDG monitoring by local governments, we did the commemorative printing and we delivered to the participants of this symposium. Mr. Ota talked about the activities toward SDGs. During that time, SDG activity, Toyota was taking a lead in SDG activity. And we launched a project to study the SDG monitoring and SDG activity evaluation. And this handbook is the result of such searching activities. In order to come up with this handbook, Toyota City Nagoya City, Nippon Engineering Consultant, ESRI Japan Toppan cooperated us to make this handbook.
いただきました。それでは、続きまして、さらに、最近の
We would like to move on to the next topic more on the recent side.
2019年に
In 2019, UNCRD's Tokyo office was established, and it is in the National Graduate Institute for Policy Studies, GRIPS. And today, we would like to welcome an expert in water and disaster and a professor from GRIPS. We would like to welcome Kenzo Hiroki. Professor Hiroki, the floor is yours.
はい、ご紹介いただきましたひろきと
Thank you.
申します。
My name is Kenzo
今、遠
Hiroki,
藤所長からご紹介い
and
ただ
as
きましたように、
Director Endo said,
私ども政策研究大学院大学
We at
国際
GRIPS
的開発センターと
have
2019
an
年
office of Tokyo UNCRD, and that was in 2019 that we signed the agreement. So this is one of the recent partnerships that UNCRD has made. So let's say we're still a toddler in terms of the age of the partnership. So compared to Professor Hayashi or Professor Monte Cassim, well, we would like to say that now it shows how much UNCRD has been contributing, and that's what you probably got to know from the past presenters. And that's how I also
私ど
felt.
もこの水と災害に関する
Now,
ハ
in
イレベ
terms
ルパネ
of
ルと、通称
the
ヘル
high-level experts and leaders panel on water and disaster, which is known as the
この
acronym
活
HELP.
動が今
I would
ど
like
の
to
ように
talk
シェ
about
アで
the
きるかと一緒になっ
activities
て進められ
that
ていくか
HELP
と
is
いうことを
doing
中心
and
に
how
そ
we
して
are
それが
working
将
together
来
with
の
UNCRD. And at the same time,
SDG をはじめとした
how
国
this
際
is
社
going
会
to
の
contribute
さらな
to
る発展
achieving
に
the
ど
SDGs
のように
goal
協
as
力
well
しう
as
るかと
for the development
貢献
of
しうるか
the
ということを
world.
話していければと思います。
This will be my
で
key topic.
その前提としてまず
And
世
the
界の
prerequisite
水
or the
災
underlying
害
condition
がど
should
うなってい
be
く
about
かというこ
talking
とを
on
ちょ
the
っとお
recent
話を
situation
したい
of
と思
water
い
and
ます。
disaster in the world.
水あるいは災害というの
When
は
it comes to
SDG の
water
中で
and
もいわゆるク
disaster,
ロスカ
well,
ッティ
this
ン
is
グイシュ
also
ということで
one of the cross-cutting issues in SDGs.
SDG の17目標に全てに関わるそういう課
And
題になっていま
this
す。
has to do with
し
all
か
the
しながら
17 goals of
自
SDGs.
然災害これ、過去
And
100年以
let's
上
look into
110 年
the
の
natural disasters that have been
災害報
reported
告
in
災
the
害っていうグラ
past
フにし
century.
たものでありますけれ
We
ど
have
も
plotted that
最
here.
近になって災害の数という
And
のは
recently, the
うなぎ
number
登
of
りに増えていく
disasters
と
are
そういったような
skyrocketing.
状況になっています。これは人口の爆発ですと
Well,
か
this has to do
あ
with
る
the
いは
explosion of
都
population
市化気
as
候
well
変
as
動こんなものが
urbanization,
関
climate
係
change.
してい
These
るわ
are
けでありますけれ
the
ども
factors
やはり
related
人
to
間活動
the
が活発
spike
に
here
なる
in
に
the
つれ
case of
て
natural disasters. So the
自
more
然
people
の
become
営み
active
と
and the more
人
people
の
there
活
is,
動の相
that
関であり
means
ます災
the
害というのはどう
correlation
しても増えて
between
きてしまう
human
という
behavior
こと
and
に
the
なると思います。
disaster is being
こ
destroyed,
れ
and that's why more
は最近
disasters are being
の20
happening.
年間で
This shows the
起こっ
past
た災
two
害
decade
で被害を受けた人の想
cases
定
of
を示しています。
disasters and the people being
合計が
affected
40億
by
人
those
いるわけ
disasters.
でありますけれど
And
も、
the total
洪水で
adds up
16
to
億
4 billion
人、
yen
渇水
and
で14億
1.6 billion
人、
yen
暴風
being
7億人
people
強
being
と
affected
い
by
ったよう
flood,
なことに
1.4 billion
なっていき
people
ます。
affected by
40
drought,
億人
and
と言いますと、
730 million
全人口の
people
3分の
affected
2
by
に当た
storm.
るわけであり
And
まして、
4 billion yen
それが20年間
people
で
is
被災する
1/3
わけ
of
です
the
から、世界の人々は必ずや
population.
人
So
生におい
we
て
would need to
2回あ
say
るいは
that
3回の
at
災害を
least
受
2
けてし
to
まうと
3
いう
times
こと
in
で、
your
その
lifetime,
中
you
で
will
このグラフ見て
probably
いただきま
face
すと分
a
かるよう
disaster.
に、
And as you can
洪
see
水、
here,
渇水、暴風ということで、実
flood,
は自然災害の
storm,
94% は
drought.
被災者数でいうと水
94%
関連の災
of
害であるという
disasters
ことが
are
言えることになりま
water-related
す。
disasters. That's what you
で、
can
もう一
say.
つ忘れてならないのは
Another thing
水
we
災害と
shouldn't
貧困問題と
forget
の
is
関係で
the
ありますけれども、
relationship between
最近
water,
ト
disaster,
ンガ
and
で大き
poverty.
な
Recently,
火山
there
噴
has
火があり
been
まし
a
たけれど
big
も、
eruption
火
of
山噴火によ
volcano
っ
in
て、
Tonga.
これ左側が
As you can
噴
see
火
on the
前、
left
右側
side,
が噴
this
火
is the
後であり
picture
ますけれど
before the
も、
eruption, and the
この
right
よう
one
に
shows the one after
島もろと
eruption.
も
The
消えてしまう
entire
ような、
island
そう
has
い
been
う大きな
devastated,
土砂の移動があったわけです。
and
そ
there
れ
was
によ
a
っ
lot of
て、津波が発生
mud,
して大きな被害をもたらした
water
わけであります。
being
そういう意味
flowing
で、
out, and also
様
a
々な自然
tsunami
活動によっ
was
て、
hit
水を介し
hit
て
the island.
災害
And
が
this
発生す
shows
るわけで
how
ありま
much
すけれど
water
も、
disaster
こちら
related
のグラフをそうい
water-related
ったトンガと
disasters
い
are
ったような
happening.
まだ
And
まだ発展途上にある地域
well,
を
Tonga
大
is
きな災
also
害
one
が
of
襲う
the
ということ
developing
は
countries,
極
and
めて頻繁に起こるわけであります。
these
で、こ
disasters
の
are
グラ
really
フは
happening
所
a
得
lot
階層
in
別
the
の災害の
disaster
死者でありま
in
すけれども、
developing
こ
countries.
ちら
This
にあり
shows
ますよ
the
うに、
toll of death toll
お金持ちの国から人たちから貧しい
relationship
人たち
to
ま
the
で
income
災害をど
level.
のように
So
受け
you
るか
get to see
ということで、
how
死者
much
数で
people are
比べ
being
てみますと、実
impacted.
は
And when we
実
look
に
into the
災害死
number
者の
of
68% が
death,
低所得から中低
68% of
所得
those
層
who have
の人たちであります。
passed away from
これを人口
disaster
10
were
万人あ
those
たり
of
の
middle
災害
to
死者
low
数
income
に
level
換算いた
people.
しますと、
When we convert
低
this
所得
into
者数
the
の方
number
が
of
高所得者
victims
数の
by
数に
every
比べて、
100,000 people, we get to know that the probability of people dying among the low to middle income people are 6 times higher than that of the high income people. So this is something we shouldn't be ignoring. Now, water-related disasters are closely linked with climate change. We say that 80% of climate change is happening due to water. And flood, drought,
大きな部分
inundation,
を占めているわけです。
these are
今
accounting
後
for the
100
major
年
portion of disasters.
に2100
100
年まで
years
です
from
けれど
now,
も
up to year
実に海面
2100, we
は
believe
80セン
that
チから1メー
the
トルま
sea
で
level
場合に
will
よって
be
は上がる
rising
と
from
言われて
80
おります。
centimeters to a
で
meter.
こ
That
れ
is
は
what
日本
is being
の
said.
大雨が降っ
This
た回数
shows
1
the
時間に
number
50ミリ以
of
上の
heavy
雨
rain
が降った回
in
数
Japan
を経年で比較
with a
していると
precipitation
いう
of
ものであり
50
ますけれど
millimeter or
も
higher, and you get to see the
1980 年
trend
代に
by
比べ
year.
ましてその
In
次の
the
10
compared
年
to the
は大体
1980s, the
10% ぐらい
next
その
decade
頻度が増えてきたんです
ended
け
with
れどもさら
higher
に10年経ちますと
torrential
実
rain.
に4
And
割増しになっている
another
という
10
こ
years
とで
later,
日本においても
40%
気候
of
変動の影響は
more
すで
rain
に
has
顕
been
著に起こっ
observed.
ていると
So
いうこと
climate
で
change is really happening even in
で
Japan.
このいわゆる豪雨それから海面上昇の影
And
響で日本に
the
ある
sea
たくさんあ
level
る
rising and the heavy
いわゆる
rain
ゼロメーター地
and
帯
precipitation are
がどのよう
affecting
に増えるかというのがこの
areas that
図であ
are
りますけれども
sea level
大阪
zero
それから
meter.
愛知周辺そして
Osaka,
東京
close to Aichi
全体
Prefecture,
で
as well as
今
Tokyo. All
現
in
在
all,
では500平方キロメ
we
ーター
see
が
that around
海面の下にあ
500
る
square meter
で
of
その中に
area is
320
below
万
sea
人の人が
level,
住んでいるわけであり
and
ますけれども
3.2 million
こ
people
の
are
海面
living
上
there.
昇が
If
予
the
測したよう
sea
に起こって
level
しまいますと
rises as being
その面
anticipated,
積が6割増えまたそのゼロ
60%
メ
of
ーター地
more
帯に住んでいる人
area
の数
will
は4
be
割増えて
in
しまう
risk, and
ということで
40% of
日
more
本
people will
も
be
気候
running a
変
risk
動の
of
影響
being
を非常に大き
flooded.
く受けるということ
So
は
this is
忘れてはならない
how
事実であり
Japan
ます
will be strongly
こういった
affected
問
with
題
climate
に
change.
対処し、警鐘を
And
鳴らし、そして現場
we
レベルの
are
活動
now
を活
trying
発に
to
するため
work
に設
on
立
these
されたの
on a
が、この
grassroots
水素災
level,
害に関
and
する
that's
ハイレベルパネルです。
the high level
で
panel
これは
for
国
on
連の
water and
水と衛生に
disaster.
関する諮問委員会、事務総
And
長の直轄の諮問委員会
we
でありま
have
すけれども、
this is
その
under
提
the
言によりまして
UN,
2007年に
and in
設立を
2007
さ
it
れてい
was
ます。
established.
で、議長はハン・スンス
The
元
chair
韓
is
国
Dr.
国
Han
務総理
Soon-soo,
でいらっしゃいま
former
し
Prime
て、
Minister of Republic
ハ
of
ン議長の
Korea.
もと、
And under the
構成部
leadership
隊と
of
いいます
Dr.
か、
Han, we have
アフリカ、
the committee
アジ
members
ア、
from
ヨーロッ
Africa,
パ
Asia, Europe,
の大臣、それから
and
吉岡
other
議官に
distinguished
も
ministers, as well
メンバー
as
になっていただいています。
Mr. Yoshioka
それ
is
から
also a member.
WMO やユネスコといった
We
国
have
際機関の
WMO,
長、それから
UNESCO,
いろいろな
other
市民団体、
UN-related
国際的な
organizations,
ある
as
いは
well as
科学技
civil
術の
organizations
研究団体の
in
長
the
もい
area
らっしゃい
of
ます。また
technology and
さまざま
science as
なア
well.
ドバイザーも抱えています
Various advisors
委
also
員の数
form
が
this
20名、
panel.
アドバイザ
We
ー
have
10名とい
20
う
committee
非常
members
に
and
小
10
世帯でありま
advisors.
すけれども、
So it is not a big team, but
そ
this is
の
how the
コンパ
help
クト性を生か
is
して、
working
機動的に
on
活用
various
するのが
initiatives
こ
and
のハイ
trying
レベ
to
ルパネ
be
ルヘルプ
flexible due
でこれ
to
が
its
メン
compact
バー
team.
の
This is the member
リ
list
スト
of
になります。
help.
で、このヘルプがCRD とパートナーシップを先ほど遠藤所長のご紹介のように
As
協定を
Director
したわけであり
Endo
ます
said,
けども、
signed into a partnership agreement with UNCRD in 2019. Why did we do this? Well, we have a common goal in achieving SDGs, and at the same time, both UNCRD and HELP has its head office in Japan. And as Dr. Monte Cassim mentioned earlier, UNCRD has been working on disaster prevention and HELP too, because that is our key activity. And we found out that, well, Japan is also one of the countries with a lot of natural disasters, and we have been overcoming this historically, and that's how Japan has been growing.
先ほどの吉岡議官のプレゼン
As
でも
Mr. Yoshioka mentioned in his presentation, this is obvious. And that's why we have the common goals and common values as well as the common knowledge base. That is one of the reasons why we decided to go for a partnership, and we are both an organization related to the UNDESA. And that's how we decided to enter into a partnership agreement. And UNCRD, as it did not have an office in Tokyo, we decided to have the Tokyo office of UNCRD in GRIPS. we help each other and we also carry out joint initiatives, and this is the partnership agreement we have signed in. And the first activities that we carried out was to have a ceremony of the signing, and we also held an international symposium on water and culture at GRIPS. And at the time, we also had the ceremony of the signing. And in the symposium, we also had the royal family to join us and to attend the symposium as well. And after the partnership agreement, a lot of activities have been accelerated between UNCRD and HELP. Mainly, we have three activities. One is to try to enlighten people about water and disaster and to work on those issues. And second is to carry out activities on site to prevent water-related disaster. And number three, which is also part of the mission of UNCRD, is to share the good practices and also to train people on these matters. This is one example to enlighten people and to raise awareness. For example, there has been a special thematic session on water and disaster which was held last year. We also have the Secretary General of United Nations. Together with HELP, we jointly hosted this event. And after the partnership with UNCRD, we have also carried out various conferences. In last year's special thematic session, we came up with discussions on the post-COVID disaster prevention activities. We had people from 70 different countries, all in all 500 people joining. We also had the Secretary General Guterres, Antonio Guterres, as well as we also had His Majesty the Emperor of Japan, and also the ministers or the prime ministers of Hungary, Tajikistan, Guyana, Bangladesh, as well as His Royal Highness Princess Victoria of Sweden. In Aichi, we held an international symposium on water disaster measures during the pandemic. This was organized last year in October with an international organization and UNCRD. Dialogues were carried out on coming up with countermeasures against water disasters. And the second activity that we are doing with the UNCRD is to carry out field actions to address water-related disasters. A recent case is, well, there are a lot of disasters during this pandemic as well, and this is going to be a double burden. For example, the cyclone that hit India in May 2020, well, the cyclone passed close to Calcutta, the city of Calcutta, and that was when the number of COVID patients doubled. So it is obvious that COVID spread in the evacuation areas when people had to fled from the water disaster. And to deal with these matters, with the help of UNCRD, we came up with these principles together with the government and private sector and the NGOs. Together with 20 organizations in the world, we came up with this. For example, to enhance leaders' awareness or to integrate risk management of disasters and pandemic. Another principle includes
被災者を守るといったようなことで、
protect
大き
people
な
and
原則
stakeholders.
を作っております。
These
これ
are the
は
major principles that we have come up
国連
with.
社会に広く
And
認められまして、今
this has been
国連
highly
の
received
5カ
by
国
the
語を含みま
international
す16の
society.
言語に
This has been
翻訳をされています。
translated to 16 different languages, including the official language of
そうい
the
っ
UN, the
た
six
教訓を含
UN
めま
official
して、
languages.
有料事例の共有をするために、これも
And we also
CRD と
try
一
to
体となりま
share
して、
the
ヘル
good
プ世界文化
practices.
運営年次報告というのを
And
作って
we
おり
are
ます。
issuing
これ
the
は
HELP
日本も
annual
含め
global
まして
report on
各
water
地
and
で発生し
disasters.
た災害の事
We
例を
include
およ
disastral
びその
cases
事例から
and
汲み取れ
lessons
る
learned
教訓
from
を
those
世界と共有する
disasters.
た
And
め
we
のも
try
の
to
で
share
ありま
this
す。
globally.
このように、
And in
ま
this
だま
way,
だパートナーシップを
well,
して始めて
there are
3年であり
still
ますけれども、
much to do because it's only been 3 years since we have signed the partnership contract, but we really get to use the network of UNCRD as well as the strong network of help.
これがお互いの機関に新しい
We know that this is going to be bringing more benefit to each other. And as the mayor of Toyota mentioned earlier, we should make this to pass it down to the next generation. Hereby, I would like to conclude my presentation. Thank you very much.
ひろき先生、ありがとうございま
Thank
し
you,
た。
Professor
お
Hiroki.
話にもありました通
As you
り、
mentioned
ヘル
in
プ
your
のイベント
presentation,
は
the
非常に
HELP
ハイレベル
event
な
is a
会
very
合で
high
あり
level
ます。このヘルプと
meeting,
接点ができたことは
and we are
非常
really
に大き
happy
な
at
意味がある
UNCRD
と
to
思っ
be
てい
able
ま
to
す。
sign this partnership
ハイレベル
agreement
と
with
いうだけではな
HELP.
くて、
It's not just only being a high
何より
level
もポス
conference,
ト
but
2015開発
the
アジェンダの一つで
post
ある
2015 development
仙
agenda,
台防災枠
including
組
the
み、これ
Sendai
は日
disaster
本が世界
framework,
をリー
is
ドす
something
る
Japan
分野
should
で、
be proud of
ま
because
た
disaster
SDGs、気
prevention
候
is
変動と
Japan's
の関係で
specialty,
も
and it
国
is
際的
closely
に
related
重
to
要なト
SDGs
ピッ
as
クで、
well as
グ
climate
ローバ
change
ルと
matters.
ローカルをつなぐ
So it
有意義
connects
な重要
global
な活
and
動分野
local
であり、
matters, and we
UNCRD と
believe
して
that
も
this is
積
one
極
of the
的に
significant
取り
activities
組ん
that
でいくこと
UNCRD
と
needs
してい
to
ます。ひろき先生、あり
continuously
がとうご
be
ざいまし
involved
た。
in. Thank you, Professor
最後に、
Hiroki. And last,
我々同僚のモハ
And
ンテ
lastly,
ィから
the
10年
last
以上にわた
speaker in
り
this session is
毎
our
年
colleague, Mr.
UNCRD
Mohanty.
が
For
環
more
境省
than
と
10 years,
共同開催してい
UNCRD
る
and Ministry
交
of the
通と
Environment
循環型経
are
済のフォーラム
holding
について
ESG,
成
circular
果を
economy,
発
and
表しても
3R
らいます。
forums.
じゃあモハンティ
And
さん、
he
よろ
will
しく
talk
お願
about
い
the
します。
result of
Thank
these
you so much,
activities.
Endo-san. Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, participants, ladies and gentlemen, warm greetings from Nagoya. I am very privileged to speak a little bit about the environmental dimension of the sustainable regional development, the mandate of UNCRD that all of you know. Selectively, because of time, I will just speak about the two initiatives. The flagship initiative, the Regional ESG Forum in Asia, and the Regional 3R and Circular Economy Forum in Asia Pacific. In particular, where the national governments, the city governments, international organizations, UN, development partners, banks, etc., they gather to discuss policy issues and specifically how to build their cities and communities towards safe, inclusive, sustainable, and resiliency. And thanks to the Ministry of the Environment of the Government of Japan for their generous contribution, because of which these two initiatives have been successful. I think in the beginning, Professor Hayashi was already speaking a number of issues, the global issues, forest loss. We lose around 4.7 million hectares of forest every year. That is equivalent to the size of Denmark. 80% of the world's wastewater is discharged into our oceans and rivers without being treatment. And 50% of the coral reefs are already lost, and up to 90% could be lost by 2050, even if the global warming is limited to an increase of 1.5 degree is aimed under the Paris Agreement on Climate Change. And 8 million tons of plastics are getting into the oceans, our oceans. And by 2050, it is expected that there will be more plastics than the fish in our oceans. And ironically, The 90% of the all plastics loads are coming from only the 10 major rivers, and 8 are in Asia Pacific and 2 are in Africa. So my question is here, what do they imply in terms of achieving the 2030 agenda and SDGs or the sustainable regional development? When the planet is facing triple crisis, as our UN Secretary General says, the climate disruption, the biodiversity loss, and pollution. As all of us know, that countries are concurrently implementing a number of interlinked and mutually reinforcing the global agendas and agreements, such as SDGs, as we have been talking about, the new urban agenda, the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction, Nairobi mandate, Addis Ababa action agenda, and also the Paris Agreement on climate change. Therefore, UNCRD's effort has been to align all its activities with these agendas, and also to address synergies in all its activities in addressing these goals. Unlike MDGs, SDGs are universal in nature, bridging the gap between the conventional approaches to economic development, poverty eradication, environmental sustainability, sustainable management of natural resources, and ecological assets. The EST, the environmental sustainable transport, and the 3 are reduce, reuse, recycle, and circular economy initiatives call for deep integration of the 3 key pillars, social, economic, and environment, towards bridging those gaps. EST, the sustainable transport, the first initiative. All of us know that accessibility is central to sustainable development, and sustainable transport is essential to achieve all SDGs, as shown here in this diagram, whether it is poverty eradication, food security, achieving zero hunger, improving literacy rate, and climate change mitigation. I'm not going into details of all these things. Let us pick up the SDG 11 just selectively, and to achieve SDG 11, which is safe, sustainable, resilient, and inclusive cities, means the transport has to be safe, affordable, accessible, efficient, resilient, low carbon, and environmentally sustainable. That means these are the forms, the fundamental basis, they provide the fundamental basis for the UNCRD's EST initiative. So what is happening? I'll skip these things. Okay, what is happening with regard to the transport sector in Asia? These are the figures. I will not go through it. This implies that success of various global agreements, such as SDGs and Paris Agreement, depends largely on the performance in Asia Pacific, how we can actually transform the Asia's transport sector. This is the Asian EST initiative. There is a little bit history given in this picture, starting from 2004, since its establishment until now. It has 3 main components. The high-level regional EST forum in Asia Pacific. This is mainly the policy forum, participated by the national governments. Capacity building at national and local level, addressing basically the cities. Asian Mayors Policy Dialogue on EST, where the Asian mayors congregate and discuss on the sustainable issues in the transport sector. For example, Honorable Mayor of Toyota City is here, who is also signatory of the Kyoto Declaration in 2007. And one of the unique features of this regional EST forum is it invites multiple line ministries, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Transport, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Urban Development, Ministry of Railways, to discuss the multi-sectoral and cross-cutting issues in transport, environment, and the climate issues. And we have partnership with more than 50 organizations, including development banks, UN organizations, ADB, GIZ, UIC, the Boswell Foundation, etc., just to name a few. I'll skip these things. The Bangkok Declaration, actually one of the most important milestone in the history of the Asian EST initiative. And even if it was adopted in 2010, much before SDGs, the 2030 agenda, it remained relevant for SDGs, Paris Agreement, and among others, before it expired just 2 years before in 2020, and succeeded by a new declaration until 2030, that is Aichi 2030 declaration, what the Deputy Director General of the Ministry of Environment of Japan, Ms. Morimushi, was talking about. In fact, the Bangkok Declaration was the first regional declaration, a time-bound declaration with dedicated goals addressing a range of transport issues in Asia Pacific. And also, I should little bit mention about the Bali Declaration on Vision 3 Zeros on next generation transport system, the zero congestion, zero pollution, and zero accident, and which has a lot of relevance when the international community are discussing now about how to achieve net zero or carbon neutral, what Professor Hayashi was mentioning. This is what the Aichi Declaration, one of the significant milestone that was adopted in October last year and hosted by the government of Japan in Aichi prefecture. And it was attended by 634 participants from 47 countries with range of government and other agencies. Aligned with the objective of achieving SDGs and Paris Agreement on climate change, the Aichi 2030 Declaration has 6 dedicated goals: environmental sustainability, road safety, economic sustainability, rural access, urban access, national access, and connectivity. You can have a look. This declaration is available in the UNCRD website, and it is also supported by a robust set of indicators to monitor the progress of implementation, and these indicators are actually coming with the support of the Asian Development Bank's Asian Transport Outlook, is known as ATO process. And the Aichi Declaration also aims to serve as a good catalyst towards improving the global reporting on 3 aspects: sustainable transport, climate, and sustainable development. Our next initiative, I think I should do a little bit justice to cover the other initiative of the Ministry of the Environment, which is the 3R and Circular Economy Initiative. And the basis of this initiative is that the way we manage our waste, it has vast implication on our resources and ecological assets. And the way we manage our natural resources and ecological assets, it has vast implications towards the waste generation. That provides the basis of this 3R and circular economy initiatives. And there has been a lot of progress made since its establishment in 2009. There have been a range of the forums. The countries have developed national 3R strategies. And under this, the state of the 3R, the first state of the 3R is also launched in 2018. The first state of plastics in Asia Pacific, which is also launched under this Asian 3R initiative. The forum also uniquely brings a range of stakeholders: ministries of environment, urban development, Ministry of Industry, Ministry of Construction, Ministry of Public Works and Transport, and Ministry of Rural Development to discuss multi-sectoral issues in waste sector. And just to give you, I think I was alerted that there is only 1 minute left, is that like Bangkok Declaration in the transport sector, UNCRD has played a leadership in making realize this Hanoi 3R Declaration from 2013 to 2023, which is going to expire actually next year, and which has a dedicated goals around 3R and circular economy, around municipal waste, industrial, rural and biomass waste, and also a cross-cutting new and emerging waste streams. So we are already in a process of discussing the successor of the Hanoi 3R Declaration, the new declaration that will replace Hanoi Declaration in 2024 with a time period that is also aligned with the SDGs and the Paris Agreement. This is a small example. You see how the 3R Forum has influenced 99 private tourist resorts in Maldives. They have signed the Malé Declaration on how to improve their operations and bringing efficiency in their operation to protect the coastal and marine ecosystem by minimizing pollution, by preventing waste generation, and etc. And this is a unique example. So this is happening at the private sector level. So this is a last slide here. This is also how we are actually working with the mayors on addressing 3R and circular economy to achieve clean land, clean water, and also the clean air in the cities. There are more than 40 mayors have already signed the Indore Declaration, which was placed in 2018 in India at the event of the 8th 3R Forum in Asia Pacific, hosted by the Government of India. And the mayors are, new mayors are encouraged to sign this declaration. So this is my conclusion of my presentation. I could not do the presentation on the last initiative because of the time, which is also IPLA, IPLA. It is a SDG partnership. It is much beyond Asia. It is global. It is international partnership for expanding waste management services of local authority, which is a SDG partnership. Thank you, Endo-san.
Mohanty さん、ありがとうございました。Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Because of the time constraint, I would like to briefly recap the 50 years history. In 1980s and in 1990s, the major renowned researchers exchanged opinions regarding regional development, and UNCRD had become the base. And 2000 and onward, International Forum, which co-hosted with the Ministry of Environment, we have conducted activities based on sustainable development and created network with various countries in the world. And in 2015 and onward, we conducted SDG-related activities, and we strengthened partnership with MLIT. In October of last year, at IT Skype List, we conducted a big international conference. Each lecturer talked about the expectation of UNCRD. We would like to respond to such expectations, so we will work together in a united manner. So this will conclude the program number 4. We had the 4 speakers.